fastest show in sports.
Howard COSELL was one of my heroes. And COSELL's, one of his first books was I Never Played the Game. And people always used to say to COSELL, how can you talk intelligently about sports when you never played the game? He said, and I actually had this conversation with Howard one day at the ABC radio studios, where he said,
Oh my
I pay
God.
attention.
Wait,
I watch,
I
am an intelligent man who can figure out
hold
exactly
on.
what I'm watching.
Hold on, Ed.
Yeah.
Let's just salute this moment in the fastest show in sports. Like, that's cool. You had a conversation with Howard Cosell. I don't care how old you
I
are
had
watching
several.
this. You probably have, if you haven't heard of the man, you should. He was the most famous sportscaster of most of our youths. And I mean, oh my God, Howard Cosell. So go finish the story.
No, but that was my only story. He said,
I cut you off. What
he
happened?
would come in, he would talk to me about it and say, because I'm an intelligent man who understands the sport, and I spend time learning about it, and I learn the players, and I know more than a lot of these so-called experts do because I pay attention. That's what COSELL did. I pay attention. I can appreciate SGA for his talent. I've never played basketball at his level, and I never will. But I'm not going to sit here and say that the guy backs off, has bad fouls, is a shit player, whatever this is, because all it is a guy like Titus and that entire genre that we're into right now just wants to do nothing more than hammer away at somebody. We've always done this. We've always had that sports hate where you can say, I hate this guy, I hate this gal, I don't like the way they play. But these clowns, these nut jobs, these whacks make it personal.
Wow.
Why?
Well,
Why make it personal?
Let's just be racial for a minute here. A guy like that, and a guy like Clay Travis at Outkick Sports, who's got a piece of shit site, excuse my language. A guy like that, those kinds of sites. It's like Jason Whitlock, who, we used to be friends, and he brought me to ESPN. And, not that he had some great social conscience, but he was a great idea guy. And then he, like most of these white guys like Titus, Portnoy, Travis, they realize there's a revenue for the disenfranchised white guy who's just angry at home, either because he had a failed athletic career, he didn't get a job because someone more qualified than him, who happened to be a minority, got a job over. These are angry racists that subscribe to these sites and everything. Have you ever met anybody from that's like an Outkick or a Barstool subscriber, and you go, "Hey, that guy's thoughtful. That guy's got that guy's thoughtful. He's not a stupid. He's not an idiot. Like, no, I've never met anybody from those people who are. It's like me and you going to college at 19 and 18, like, or 20. Like, this is great, man. These guys talk. These guys can say what they want.
These guys
like
talk
Ted
smack.
Koppel.
That's what they do.
These guys talk smack. This
Listen
isn't your grandpa's site. Like, shut up. You're racist. But anyway, I guess what I'm getting at is I spoke to Ed Berliner, a likable character. However, that man right there, the fastest show in sports host, and the Dolphins go on to win. God, I loved Howard Cosell.
That is a on a scale of 1 to 10. That is probably about a 2 on a COSELL. A 3? Yeah, I mean, that's about a 2 or a 3. Because for those who don't know it, Howard COSELL talked like this. He was an erudite.
Go.
He was an individual who sat and watched the games. I find myself watching these games because they have an incredible amount of joy and they have an incredible amount of talent that these young men bring to the game. But I, Howard COSELL, will always tell the truth. Telling it like it. That's the way COSELL spoke. That was his cadence. Brief story, and then I'll move on to something else. But I'll tell you a COSELL story here real quick.
But wait. I was going to say, if anybody, before you see this hear this COSELL story, if anybody watching today has any time, just Google Howard Cosell and Muhammad Ali. Some of the greatest. When Ali died, I went to his funeral in 2016 in Louisville, covered it for the Undefeated at ESPN. Still the best assignment they gave me there in my 3 years there. It was amazing because all these Cosell, Ali, and one of them was just as simple as You're very truculent today, Muhammad. And Ali going, Howard, if whatever that is, if it's good, I'm it.
I
And
mean,
I'm like, oh my
I don't
God,
know.
this was like
He
they
just
had
shook his
such an
head when he had that.
amazing.
He said you're very truculent, Muhammad. Howard, I don't know what truculent is, but if it's good, I'm it.
I mean, you couldn't make it up. But anyway, go ahead. Go.
Yeah,
We're
but
like
it's
we've got we've just hooked everybody over 50. Ed, go.
pretty soon I'll be over 60. But if you've never heard of Howard Cosell, you have to at least search him out and learn more about him and see, because he revolutionized the business, changed the industry, just because he wasn't an athlete. He was the guy who always said, I'm telling it like it is. And he did. He didn't lie. He didn't bullshit. He basically laid it all out simply and intelligently in everything that he said. I'm a young radio reporter working in Miami. I'm a stringer for several radio networks, and one of them was the ABC radio network. I had a reason to go to New York City and visit some relatives, see some friends. So it was my first chance up there, so I wanted to go meet everybody at the network. Got into the network, went there, was waiting, was walking around, just people saying hi to the different people. Bruce Morton, great people like that. Um, Janet, so many other people that I met at the time. And I was waiting to talk to a couple of other people. And I'm sitting in an anteroom, and there's a studio door, and the studio doors are about 9 feet thick. And in that room is Howard Cosell, and he's recording his daily sportscast, and he's recording, telling it like it is. He's doing his commentary.
Speaking, it was
Speaking of
speaking of
sports,
sports.
speaking of sports, he did Speaking of Sports. He actually did a show in the morning and in the afternoons when radio was very big for this. And I had spoken to Howard briefly at that point once in Miami when he was down for a Dolphins game in a Monday Night Football game, but very briefly. And I waited until he was done. You don't do this. You're not supposed to go in. When the light is on, you don't go on. Okay, the light was on, light went off.
No.
I opened the door, and 20-something kid who's in there now, and I walked up to him and I said, Mr. Cassell, my name is Ed Berliner. I work in Miami. I'm the stringer for the radio network there. And I just wanted to tell you, it's an absolute pleasure to meet you. Cosell had an unlit cigar about 9 feet long in his mouth, which he always had, these big old stogies. He looked at me, put his cigar down. He said, of course it is.
Oh my
And
God, that's the Han Solo line to Princess Leia in Empire Strikes Back. Like, I love you. I
I
know.
know.
Like, oh my, that's so good. Oh, that makes him even more a legend in my mind.
It was marvelous. And then he went back to what he was doing, and he said, come see me when I'm done. It'll be about another half hour. We'll talk. And I went back and
Oh,
I
man.
talked for about 10, 15 minutes with Cosell, and we talked about sports. We talked about his life. We talked about different things. We talked about Ali. Um, but he was the kind of guy where you didn't try to outthink him, and you also didn't try to, when Cosell was telling a story, you didn't try to top the story. Don't do it. Let him tell it. If it's an Ali story, if it's an Olympic story, if it's something about football, something about anything, you just go,
Yeah.
okay. Because the minute you try to top Howard Cosell, you're in deep trouble. The man would just blow you down with all the stories and the people that he
He,
knew.
he, he
Now,
before we move on, he had a real sensitive side too, where people always think of him as this arrogant New Yorker who just
he was.
he obviously transcended sports, and he was, but he had this sensitive side too. I still remember him before the Thrilla, no, not the Thrilla Manila, the Rumble in the Jungle. He loved Ali. Obviously, he and Ali are linked forever. And he went and he had an interview with Ali before the Foreman fight at his training camp. And he came on at the end after this really nice interview. Like, you could get hurt, you could, like, and because Foreman was so favored, and he was such a, he had a right hand for the ages.
Oh
and
God, he was
and
incredible.
and everybody thought Ali couldn't just might not just lose, but might really get
I
hurt.
get
And
hurt. Yeah.
yeah, and Cosell came on after the interview on ABC with his yellow jacket and his ABC, and he goes, "I like the kid. I love the kid. I've known him for many years. I don't think he will beat George Foreman. And it just crushed him to say that. And of course, after Ali won, he's like, I told you, COSELL. But and then he also he never did another boxing match after watching the Randall Tex Cobb Larry Holmes fight, because Tex Cobb, even though he was like this guy that came out of the Philadelphia, and he was a
Tex
brawler,
Cobb
it
got
was such a
destroyed.
yeah, it was just a mismatch, and he just was like, "I cannot watch this. It's a debate." Like he said, it everything the ugliness of boxing was so bad to him at that point. He could not do another fight, and he didn't.
That's all, folks.